So my name is Rachel Honoway. I am the CEO at FMTC. We specialize in enterprise-level data feeds for affiliates. So if you know what that means and you want to talk to me more about that, that's fine. If not, that's okay too. The reason I am very passionate about this topic that I'm going to talk to you about today is that our company has 24 employees and we have 24 locations. So we have people across the United States working from their homes, satellite offices, co-op kind of office spaces, and it's a real challenge to work with a group like that. It's definitely a challenge that we embrace and enjoy, but it's something that we recognize as a challenge. So I'm going to share some things with you today about learning experiences that I've had, and I'll say we a lot, and the other half of me that I'm talking about is Eric Nagel, sitting over there. He's our CTO, and he's my right-hand man, and we do a lot of this together. So I just want to make sure that he gets some of the credit for this too. I wanted to ask everybody in here, who here actually manages a remote team? Do you have? Great. Okay, excellent. Or who here is maybe thinking about not doing an office? Oh, I'm so sorry. And hiring people instead. I talk too much with my hands. You're thinking about doing it? Okay, great. So I gave a speech back in New York this summer at Affiliate Summit, and I really focused on things like communication and team building and coming up with company culture. So if anybody has questions about that, I'm more than happy to talk about that kind of thing as well. But today, what I was going to focus on is maybe some more of the legal and accounting types of things. It might get a little boring, but it's actually information you're going to want. So I'll try to go through it as quickly as possible so you don't get bored. And then we should have some room for questions as well. So we'll go through these 5 points. Point number 1 is to have a plan. This was also my point number 1 on my session earlier this year. This is incredibly, incredibly important. Point number 2 will be to decide between employees and contractors. Number 3 will be to understand payroll and taxes. Then we'll talk about insurance and benefits, and then setting policies, guidelines, and expectations. So let's jump right into have a plan. A lot of times when we're starting our companies, we're getting things rolling, we're thinking, hey, I've got this great idea, right? This is a great idea, and I can get somebody to help me with this part of it and that part of it, and all of a sudden you have this team of people, and you have employees, now you have new challenges and new things that you have to work through that you weren't necessarily maybe thinking about when you got started because you just had a great idea and you wanted to get it out the door. So whether you take the time to do that now before you get started with something, or you stop now, stop everything and create your plan, having a plan is very, very important. I really like the Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. This is by a company called Gazelles. They have a second version, that's the book just to the right, that says Scaling Up. These have great plans, and it's not something where you have to take 3 months and sit and type away a business plan that nobody's ever going to read. These are really great actionable strategies that you can bullet point and share with your team. The next point there is to share. I don't know if anybody was in the keynote session this morning, but one of the things that Carrie had emphasized was that communication from the management team throughout the rest of the staff, and that's very, very important that your staff understands that you have a plan and where they fit into it and what the goals are for the company. Then determine your hiring needs. Look at where your plan is going to take you. Who are the people you need to get that plan accomplished? And then start hiring based on those needs instead of, oh, my sister needs a job, where can I fit her in? Or we've got this little thing over here I don't really want to have to do, so I'm going to hire somebody for that part. You know, think through it and think, okay, there's that little thing that I don't want to do, there's something else that somebody else has, can we build a job description and actually fill a position with that? So again, plan is incredibly, incredibly important first step. So the next thing to consider is employee versus a contractor. And again, as you're getting started with things, I think it's very, very easy for us to just say, hey, this will be great, I just need this one project done, or I just need this one very specific thing done, right? And you can have a contractor. A contractor can handle this one very specific thing. And that can be fine. Maybe for the long term, that's something that works out. We have some long-term contractors. They're people that are part of our team and they're with us all the time, but they're a contractor. But we also have employees. Talk with your tax professional, your accountant, or somebody in your area to see what they recommend. It's not just how you want to pay. It's not just, do you want to 1099 somebody or go through payroll? There are different restrictions for who you can count as a contractor and who you can count as an employee, so make sure that you know those and you don't make a mistake on classifying somebody incorrectly. Also consider how much money you're saving by having somebody as a contractor. Usually that's how you get started with somebody, but contractor rates tend to be a lot higher than an employee's wage. And once they have to take into consideration the taxes they have to pay once they're 1099 and all of the taxes that you would pay for them as an employer, at the end of the year, you might be able to get somebody that you have as a part-time contractor on full-time and have a net zero impact on their income. So really do the math on that and have your accountant and your tax professional help you with that and work with your employees on that. Also think about the quality of the connection between that person and the company. For some people it works out really well. Having a contractor agreement can work out really well, but for a lot of contractors, it's sort of a lifestyle thing. They're working on projects when they have time. So if that's okay for the project that you have working, that's great. But think about that connection. That was something that's very important to me when I took over at FMTC a few years ago. Most of the people working on our team were contractors. And at some point I felt it difficult when we were trying to come up with a team meeting and everyone's like, oh, well, I'm not in the office that day, or I'm not working at that time, and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. And it was just really clear that we weren't everybody's first priority when it came to their careers and their work. So really consider that. The next thing to do is to understand payroll and taxes. Again, super exciting. And I'm going to say get professional guidance before you're forced to. Before the state of New York sends you a $50,000 past due tax bill with fines and everything else on top of it, and you're thinking, I didn't know I had to file something there. Get that help before you start doing work with employees and contractors in all of these different states. If you're going to be doing employees, consider a third-party provider, like a Zen Payroll. They're changing their name to Gusto, Paychex, or Paychex PEO. These companies, they know what's going on from state to state. They have people on staff that are up to date on compliance and helping all of their clients stay in compliance. So it's worth it. I feel like they know it. They have the professionals behind it, and I can rely on them, and it's one less thing that I have to deal with. Remember that each state has its own tax codes and filing. So there's no United States, if they work in the US, it's just fine. It'll be, everybody's the same. Everybody is not the same. Each state is very, very different. And then also note that some states have labor laws that affect wages and hours and benefits. For example, we have some of our hourly employees that work across the country, but we have a number of them in California. And overtime is very different in California than it is in other states. They don't say a 40-hour week, they say an 8-hour day, and 8 hours in consecutive hours. So somebody can't work. We have some people that come in and they start working at maybe 11 p.m. their time. Well, their 8 hours might go across a couple of days, or across those 2 days since they're hitting midnight, and we have to watch that. We have to keep them in check. So offer insurance and benefits. This first one, again, get professional guidance. But with the Affordable Care Act out there, this isn't something you can ignore anymore. It's not something you can say, we're too small, and when we're bigger, I'll think about insurance. When we're bigger, I'll think about this. You have to do it now. You have to know at least what you're required to do. There's lots of information out there. You can find it, but don't think of this as something that you're going to do later. Talk to your accountant about a 401k plan. This is one I was pretty surprised about. We had a small team starting out at the beginning of this year, and I thought, we probably won't qualify for any 401k plans. We weren't really looking at matching at the time, so what's the benefit? But we ended up finding a plan that was great. We had some employees that wanted to do a 401k, and it was a great benefit for them, and really cost the company just the administration fees, so it was great. And here again, brokers and benefits service providers are a wonderful resource. This is that kind of stuff that, there are just books and books and pages of regulations and requirements and options that are out there. That's somebody else's full-time job right now. You can rely on them. Go for it. Also remember that working at home is a benefit. This is one of those things we tend to forget, and when we just went through a hiring spree this last year, and we talked with people and we're like, no, you actually will work from home. And they're like, yeah, but really? From where? From home. You get to stay home. So we kind of take that for granted because we do it all the time, but that's a great tool to bring people in, and a good benefit to offer them. And then also think about combining benefits with team building. So we do some things like, we got everybody Fitbits for our holiday, end of the year, thank you, kind of a thing for all of our employees. We all sort of compete and talk to each other about what we've got going on our Fitbits. And we also use a program called Bonusly, it's bonus.ly. And all of our employees have points that they can award to one another, and then those points they can turn into things like Starbucks cards or Netflix, credits and things like that. So they can actually turn the compliments they're getting from other team members into cash. It's kind of fun. All right, last point on this is to set policies, guidelines, and expectations. So we have sort of a mantra in our management and executive team where we say doing the job is only half the job. And I think that's something that Carrie mentioned this morning in her keynote address, that being a good team player and being engaged and really understanding the goals of the company is something that's important across the board. It's not just a management thing. So you want your employees to know what the goal is. You want them to buy in. You want them to be engaged and be working along with you, not just pressing the button they're supposed to press every day. So think about that. Also, let them know, when should they work? Who should they contact? How should they do it? When you're in an office together, it's easy. You can kind of see the flow. You see everybody moving around, and you know where to go. But when you're behind your computer sitting at home, and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? And who do I call for that? So make sure they know all of that. Remember that there's no body language when you're working online with people, whether that's through email or an IM, like we use Slack. It's really, really difficult to get humor. It's really, really difficult to get annoyance. So really, that's something you have to think about. You have to be very, very clear. You have to say, I don't like what you just said, because you can't go, right? They can't see that. So make sure that you're very, very clear with how you're talking to people, and ask people to be clearer when they talk to you. When they send you a quick little IM, what was this or what was that? Go back to them and say, are you in a hurry? Is there something that you need? Are you upset about something? Should we jump on the phone now? And make sure that you can pick up on things like that you're not going to pick up from body language. All right, so summary points there. My email address is on there, bless you. But if anybody has questions, we have 15 minutes. I really wanted to leave this open. Linda, go ahead to the microphone there. Thank you.
Hi, Rachel. Good stuff.
Thank you.
I have a lot of my people are outsourced, including myself, so on a 1099. It was my understanding from my employer that because I lived in a state outside of where they do business, I had to be a 1099. No. So apparently that is not the case.
It's not the case. That is absolutely not the case, and they have to be very careful with it, depending on the state that you are in, the number of hours you're working, and also how much of your time they dictate, and how much of your autonomy is there, right? Let's say that all plays into whether or not you're an employee or a contractor.
Okay,
not states.
So they can in fact have employees in any state they want. They just have to follow those rules.
It's a pain in the butt for them,
That's
but they
why
can.
they don't want to do it.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
that's good to know.
Thank
you very much.
Good question. Anybody else? Great. Come on up. Yep. Whoever you got.
Hello. I have a little voice. Just to know the software you use to control your employees at distance, please.
The what? What assistance?
Software.
For?
To know how many hours do they work exactly.
To know how many hours they work. Hubstaff. We use Hubstaff. And that is a great one, especially for the hourly employees. And also we can track contractors. It's very, very nice. It's a great tool. Great reports. It does do screenshots. You can actually do so he's saying, can you screenshot? So anybody that has it on their computer, you can take screenshots of their screen as they're working, which is nice, especially if there are people that you're not quite sure about. There's two options. There's a blurred out option, or there's an open option. So you can tell people, hey, I'm checking what you're doing, but everything's blurred out. But you can very clearly see if they're on Facebook all day. Yeah. Next, I know there's somebody else. Yeah, come on up.
Hi, Rachel. Have you run into any issues with health insurance where if you literally have 24 different states, they generally want a minimum number of lives covered, and each state has its own plan? Have you run into that?
Yeah, definitely. Health insurance, and I'd love it if health insurance could just be just one easy answer. But yeah, the more states you have people in, the more difficult it does become, for sure. A lot of the providers do want you to have at least 2 to 3 people in one state. For us, we don't. We don't have that many people in one state. So these are some of the things that you can do. Or going through brokers is helpful because they can get you on plans that will mix you with other people. Last year we were actually on Paychex PEO, and you essentially become a Paychex employee. All of your employees are their employees, so you're in the Paychex pool. I'll tell you, this is just honest, I did not like their service. We are dumping them, but that's one of those, it is what it is. The other thing that's available is the health exchange now, because of the Affordable Care Act. There's a public exchange, and they do have business solutions. So you can have employees all over the place. You need to pick one state, but other than that, then there are plans for everybody in every state. So that's pretty helpful too. The Affordable Care Act, it's. Yeah, you know what, I'm sorry. I'll follow up with you on that. I know it's in my email box and I can forward it to you. Yep. More questions?
Do you have any particular resources or methods that you recommend for recruiting that work best?
Great, yeah, recruiting. So like I said, this last year we just went through a hiring spree, and we started out with post a job and get resumes in, and just on our website and through forums and things like that. And that works. That's nice for people that know you, and in a tight industry like this, it's something you can use. But a tool that we found that we really, really liked was called Workable. And it's a platform for hiring. So you go in, you put your job description, your requirements, and you put the job out there. And there are candidates that come through just on Workable, but then you can also take those listings and then advertise them through any of their partners. So they're partnered with like LinkedIn, Ideal, We Work Remotely, places like that. But yeah, we had great luck with that. And it's really nice because there's a whole process that you go through. So you can get an application from somebody, and then you say, no, I don't want them, or yes, I want them, and it can automatically send nice rejection letters, or it'll send letters out to say, yes, let's schedule a time to talk. And it really does move everybody's profile to the right further and further until they're hired. And I'm looking back there at one of my employees, Matt. Matt moved through that process a few months back and got to the hired, and now he's sitting here with us. So yeah, that's a great tool. And then also within this industry, the PMA has a job board. And so I had a couple of jobs this year that were very, very industry specific. I needed somebody that knew this space and knew it really well. Going and just putting a job on any job board wasn't going to help me. So the PMA job board really helped me really well. And that one is interesting because people that you think are very happy at their jobs now, and maybe they are, and you would think, oh, they would never leave, I would never approach them to come and work with me. They see a job on the PMA and they're like, oh, I didn't know you were hiring, and you can start some conversations with some good people in this space that you may not have thought would even be an option. More questions? Oh? All right. I can stop talking. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so I'm going to say earlier this year, when Skype went down for that 24 hours, was the best thing that ever happened to our company. We were all on Skype, and everything was Skype. We did our Skype meetings and calls and everything, and it went down, and we were all like, oh, what do we do? We can't talk to each other. And we had heard about Slack, and a couple of our programmers had played with it before, so we're like, let's just try it. Let's jump in, feet first, give it a go. And by that day, we were hooked. My phone is not on me right now, but all day when it buzzes, I'm checking in. I know what everybody's doing, no matter where we are. And it's just friendly. It's very friendly. It's very comfortable. It's a nice way to communicate. You can do calls through it. There are a couple of applications that you do. We actually use Uber Conference for our calls. It just helps out. We like that one. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm Stig Severinsen from Denmark. I was leaving after a great presentation, just helping this gentleman, but now I actually have a question.
Okay.
Because I am in your shoes, so to speak. I have about 8 people around the world as well. Mm-hmm. So what would you suggest, or what would you highlight, because I'm in the process of finalizing what we want to use as the best communication platform, not to complicate things, but to also keep it streamlined, right?
Yeah.
So like Slack. So what is your take on that if we say things like Trello, Slack, Asana, and let's just keep it at those, and Skype, maybe email.
Sure. This is something that's a constant, changing, moving thing for us. It has been over this last year. Every single thing that you just mentioned there, we used or still use. So it's really hard. We've said, okay, what can we do to just narrow this down to just a very, very few things? And sometimes that limits people. If I'm looking at somebody who's maybe marketing, Nate is sitting back there, he does our marketing. It's very hard for me to say, Nate, you need to schedule and communicate marketing campaigns using the same tools as somebody else who's doing some PHP programming. They're very, very different end goals that they have there. So what we've decided on is that Slack is our hub. Slack is our hub for everything. And Slack has a lot of different integrations that are happening, or that you can put in there. So Nate can take his campaign calendar and he can put everything into one of the chat rooms that we have in there, so that everybody on our front line understands what's happening in the marketing world, where our programmers are committing code via Beanstalk, and those updates are being brought into Slack so that we can see on Slack that these updates are happening. So I'd love to be able to tell you, like, this one platform is your be-all, end-all, everything. It's just really not. I pick the tools that work, but see if you can come up with something like a Slack or something like that that will be your central hub, so that, it really just is nice to kind of have that view of everything that's happening at all times. That's okay.
I'm sorry, maybe my question wasn't clear. It was more the combination, like you explained. So like we use Upwork, that's why I came to this gentleman, because it's just simple and easy.
Yeah.
Odesk, it was called before. And then it's more the integration, like you're also talking about, with Slack and maybe Trello, to have a box where you put different things. Yeah. But then you have that main hub, and that is probably your answer, right? Slack. So they all come in there when the developers, the code, the campaigns.
Yep, Slack. Right. And we have developers.
Because it's a great question, right? In the sense that you have so many wonderful platforms, but you want to keep it simple.
It is.
And they're all good, but...
I know, and sometimes, I know. I get it. It's one of those things where it's like you're trying to simplify things, and then you realize you make it harder. So, I feel like that's one it's a never-ending battle. But the thing that has worked the best for us is having Slack as that cohesive piece in the middle. Yeah.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah.
What kind of recommendations do you have for your employees, or best practices for maintaining healthy home office environments? For example, like if my home office, if my door is shut, you have to knock. If it's open, my wife or kids can just come in and interrupt me. If they hear me on the phone, there's no interruptions allowed.
Yeah.
What other types of best practices do you recommend for your employees to maintain that healthy environment while you're working from home?
Sure, this is a great point. We talk to our employees all the time about this, and it's something that I'm one of those people that if you tell me this is what you should do and it will work, I just have an immediate resistance, like that won't work for me, forget it, I have to do it my own way. So I'm very, very keen on not telling people how they should do things, but really just making some open communication so everybody can share what's working for them. I think the biggest thing that we did as a push, and it really is a push, and we were very upfront and honest with it, is getting everybody these Fitbits. We know that we're asking people to sit at their computers 8 or more hours a day, and so we've told them we need them to get up and start moving around. We call it our weekly huddle. We get on a call with everybody in the company once a week, and we have different topics that we talk about. And very, very often, time management, work-life balance, and topics in and around that will come up, and everybody shares a tip or something that's been working for them. We've got people that have an on-air sign. Nobody's allowed in when they have their on-air on. And I'll be honest, there's somebody that Eric, who's just here, left. He and I had to sit down with an employee recently and say, listen, we don't think you have this balanced. We really have to talk about this. And we actually asked him to go and work in a co-op or co-work kind of a space a couple of days a week so that he can get that separation. So for us, what has worked is just giving a lot of tips and letting people do that, but really, really trying to understand if it's working or not, or if they need us to kind of push them along a little bit. Yeah.
I just wanted to jump on that health factor for a minute. I've worked at home for a long time. I sit in front of my computer many, many hours a day, like lots of you do. And I had blood clots in my left leg in September. That's a real wake-up call because blood clots can kill you. And it was basically because I sat around all day long working on my computer constantly. And so don't have blood clots. Yes. the Fitbit thing is great. I also got one of those rebounders. It's the small trampolines. And I get up from my desk every time I have like a little break, so once an hour at least, and jump up and down on the trampoline. And in 2 minutes, the blood is pumping and my heart is going, and it's really fast and really easy because it's right there. Perfect. So, yeah, everybody.
Yes, don't have blood clots. That's a very good takeaway.
Don't have blood clots.
Yes,
Not fun.
Yes. Yes. All right, well, we're out of time. So like I said, I'll be tomorrow on the speaker one-on-ones at 2 o'clock. If you have any questions, or really do, feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to go back and forth on email if you guys have questions I can help with. Thank you so much for coming.